Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will show you on how to add edit functionality of our CRUD application. So let's start. So we have here the application that we created on our previous video. So we're able to add the add functionality, so you can add a record in our application, and also you can delete a record. Now we're going to add the edit functionality. So if the user clicks on the name of the student, you will be directed to the edit page. So let's do the coding. Okay, so in our VS Code, we're going to modify some codes that we made here. So in this example, we'll be modifying that to anchor tag. Then we'll be adding the href. So once the user clicks on the name of the student, the user will be directed to the edit record page. Now, we're going to create the routes for that. Then the name of the route is edit record. Then in here, we'll just modify that edit record page. So since this file is not existing, so we'll be creating that by copying this file. Then paste. Then let's try to modify that. And then let's try to modify the title, which is edit record and edit record. Then let's check our application. So we have here this output. So where the name of the student is now clickable. So let's try to take Bruce Wayne. Then we're able to go to the edit record page. Now, once the user click the name of the student, automatically the value for name will be assigned to name and for the address. And to do that, we need to pass the ID of this so that we could determine what record we are going to edit. So let's say, for example, we click John Smith. So the application cannot recognize what record you are going to edit. So to do that, you need to pass a variable, which is the ID in here. So once the user clicks the name of the student, the variable will also be included or will be passed to the next page or to the edit record page. So how are we going to pass a variable from page 1 to page 2? So to pass a variable, we need to go to home page, and then in here we'll be passing the value of the ID. That will determine what record we are going to edit. So let's copy this variable, and then in here we'll be adding the plus sign, the concatenation operator for a view. Then let's paste the value for the ID, and of course we need to bind that by adding the colon And then we need to add the slash. Next is we go to the router and index.ts. So let's modify the route. So we need to add the slash and then the name of the variable for our parameter, which is ID. And then after that, we need to go to edit record to display this value for the meantime, or to get this value. So we go to edit record page, that view, and then okay, in here we'll be importing the use route from view router. And then we need to add another property, which is the setup. And then we need to define a variable, which is a constant variable, route, and equal to use route. Then after that, we need to define our local variable in this page that will represent the value, or that will be used to store the value of the variable from the previous page. So let's say the name is ID. Then we need to get the value that we pass from the previous page. So to get the value of that is route.params dot the name of the variable, which is ID. Now we're going to return that. Then ID. Now let's try to display the value of ID if we are getting the value of the ID of the student. So for the meantime, we'll be displaying that in here. Then ID. And then let's check our application. Then let's try to click this student, Bruce Wayne. And then as you can see on our URL, we are passing the value, which is 79, and we're getting the value in here. We're able to display the value of the variable. So that is correct. Okay, now we're going to create an API that will retrieve the record for this student, which is represented by, or which is represented by 79 as the ID. Okay, in here we'll be modifying this one, and then instead of, for the meantime, we need to duplicate this function, or this method, and then we'll be modifying that, and then we will be naming that as get student info, and that's the function name or method name. And then we go to parameters, and this one we'll be modifying that into edit record instead of edit_record.php. Then of course the variable, which is the ID, we'll just name that as ID. And this one, okay, so we need to modify that instead of edit record, get student record .php, then ID, then this .id. and then we need to replace that or remove the other parameters. So in here, we'll be creating an API that will retrieve the record of the student. So the PHP file is getStudentRecord.php, and we'll be passing a parameter, one parameter, which is the ID. The ID is the value or the variable that we pass from page 1 to page 2, or from home page to the edit record.php. So we're going to create this file. We need to modify these students. So we'll just save this one. We'll just create a copy, save as. Then the new file name is getStudentRecord.php. And then in here we'll be adding a variable, which is the ID is equal to underscore request. Then value is ID. And in here, instead of order by, we'll just add a where clause. Then ID is equal to, okay, so we'll be using the ID. We'll be finding a variable which is ID. And then in here, we'll be adding the value or values. Then array, semicolon. Okay, so ID, then equal sign, the value of the ID. Then execute. Then in here, we will not use the while, since we are expected to retrieve one record only, or we're expecting one record. Then okay, semicolon. So we're going to store the values in our array, and then we'll just remove this since we're expecting a one record or one row. Then array, ID, name, and address. Then student. Okay, so we'll be encoding that so that we will convert that into JSON format. Okay. Then after that, we go to our VS Code, and then since we're getting the value from here, the ID, name, and address, so let's try to assign a value for our txt name, then equal sign response.data.id. Okay, semicolon, that name semicolon. And then this get student info will be placed on our mounted okay, this dot get student info. Okay, so that's the source code for our Ionic part. Then let's write the application again. Reload, and then let's try to click the other student. Let's try John Smith. So we have a problem which is network error, so we are expecting an error here, network error. So let's try to display for the meantime the response so that we can determine the possible error. Maybe we have an error in our PHP. So still network error. Just check the student record.php. Get student record.php. Null params id this.id alert response. Onto our PHP file. Get student record.php. Okay, where id is equal to id. Request id, variable name, id, result, execute values, row count. So we have a problem with here. Okay, so we forgot to remove this one. The extra brace. Then let's try our application again. So we're getting the value. So we have a correct response for our PHP file. Now let's return our source code from alert to the original, which is the this.txt name is equal to response.data.name. And then okay, so we're able to display the value of Bruce Wayne. Let's try the other students. Let's say for example Jose Rizal. So we're getting the value of Jose Rizal. So let's fix our codes. So we're going to remove the ID in here since we're not going to use that anymore. And then we'll display also the value for the address. Then txt address, response.data.address. Save. And then okay, so we're able to display the information of the students inside of the text box. Let's try the other students. Tony Stark. Okay, so we're getting the value for Tony Stark and the address of Tony Stark. Now we're going to create the save functionality of our application, the update. So for example, we change the address like Metro Manila. Then we are expecting that the address of Tony Stark will be updated. But since our code is still add record, so the code for add record is we will just add a new record instead of update. We're going to add record. Okay, so they use or we use insert into instead of update. So we're going to create another file which is the edit record.php, and then all we need to do is just to save as the add record, then edit record, save. Then after that, as you can see, we need also to pass the value of the ID. So that will determine what record we are going to save. We're going to use that on our where clause. So we are passing the value of ID, the name, and the address. So now we're going to our PHP file and we're going to update our code. Then we'll just add the ID variable also, since the variable name of the ID is ID. And then we're going to change this code and we'll just make that to update DBL student set the value of name. Okay, so the value is equal to name. Then first, the value of address is equal to address. Then we'll just add the where clause. Then ID is equal to colon ID. Then in here, we'll just add another variable, the ID variable. So kindly observe our variable order. So first is the name, second is the address, third is the ID. So you're going to add a variable in here, so you need to follow the sequence. So we'll just add the ID at the end of our array. So name, address, and the ID. So do not forget that. You need to follow the sequence. Okay, so let's check our application. Let's try the update, or let's try to update our record. So let's go back. Then for example, Tony Stark. Then let's try to add a value for modify by adding a 1. Then of the name and the address. Then let's try to save. Okay, so let's try to return to the main page. So we're not able to update the Tony Stark. Let's try again. 1. Okay, so we forgot to save our PHP file. So do not forget that. So next is, let's try that again. Then click the save button. Okay, so we're able to update the name of Tony Stark. So as you can see, we're able to add 1 at the end of the name of Tony Stark, and the address is Washington. So let's try to modify again. So let's say for example, this student John Doe, for example, and the address is Quezon City. Then let's try to save that. Okay, so John Doe, Quezon City. So that is the code for the update. Okay, so thank you and see you on our next videos.